All right, welcome back to this week's edition of the Rock and Roll Ghost podcast. This week we have filmmaker BJ McDonnell. He has directed a really fun new movie called Studio 666 starring rock band The Foo Fighters. BJ, thanks a lot for coming on today. I hope everything's going well for you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Like, really excited. It's good. It's a big week.
Yeah. I mean, this when I heard about this, everybody kept pretty quiet about this until it was announced.
Oh yeah.
I didn't hear anything about it until I'm like, they made a film?
Yeah.
Like, okay, so let's jump into the beginning.
Sure.
Did you have a relationship with the guys in the band beforehand, and then how did you get the job?
I had met Dave before. It's funny because so Dave has a tour manager, Gus Brandt, that actually I grew up with. And Gus is an old friend of mine because I used to be in I used to be basically like in this punk band. So Gus would actually book our band to open up for other bands. And so I knew him. And then later on down the road, he took off with the Foo Fighters. Then many years later, after I've gotten my camera career, I got basically into, doing a video for Run with the Foo Fighters.
Oh yeah.
Dave that way through my buddy Brandon Trust. And then when he has these two producers, Jim Rhoda and John Ramsey, who did Sound City and Sonic Highways, who also are good friends of mine, who we're trading ideas and trying to get pitches together for other movies. Yeah. When they found out Dave wanted to make the horror film, they're like, "Oh, you should talk to BJ. He loves horror films and he does these Slayer videos that are super gnarly. Check him out." So they sent me Dave's idea. I kind of wrote on my idea, made a lookbook, and then I had a meeting with Dave and presented him like what I wanted to do, and the kind of horror that I thought this movie would be was like very 80s throwback, nothing like new school, like more old school, because this needed to be a band movie. So you mix the old school 80s horror with the fun kills and not crazy serious stuff. And then you mix it with the old school band vibe. And I wanted to create that vibe and really just kind of come down to making a really fun movie. And that's exactly what Dave wanted to do. So we totally vibed on that. And then once we had that meeting, we started, and that was it. He said, "Let's do this." And we have Studio 666.
Yeah. Now I'm sorry if I missed what you said. I apologize. But were you working off of his story idea, or was there a script already done?
There was a story idea at first, and then
Dave did. Yeah.
Dave did. So Dave created his plot story, and then basically then I kind of wrote like what I thought would be cool, and then he had some writers that they wanted to use, and basically presented the idea with them, and they're the ones that wrote the script.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So how long did you end up? When did you film it, and how long was the actual filming process?
So we started in like February, end of January, February 2020. We had about 6 days left to shoot, and then the world basically shut down.
Okay. So you had it. Yeah, you had it pretty early on. I thought maybe you guys did it last year.
No, we started early, but then, what took so long is that we got shut down. We didn't come back for like almost 7 months, And so then by that time we had edited kind of like remotely. I was in my office in here, and I have all these monitors like with a remote editing thing. And we got to the point where you could only edit as much as we could. Then we had pencils down, and we had to wait till we came back. 7 months later, we came back and we finished the job with all the, regulations of COVID and all that stuff. It was a big time learning experience because we were one of the first movies to come back to deal with that. So that I think, and that's what took so long with the movies, just because of the timing of that. Then we had to go into post, and then special effects and yada yada, sound, music, all how it goes.
Well, yeah. But I guess part of me thought maybe it was a COVID era film completely because of just the limited amount of people in it, and the one location pretty much for for the film. I guess I just assumed it was based on maybe making everything a little bit more simplified. But you're talking this was the idea all along, is to have a very low key, centralized filmed kind of thing.
Yeah, and that was the other thing. We wanted to keep it very secretive, because we wanted to. I believe this movie was supposed to come out with Medicine at Midnight. Like we were supposed to be done. And actually it was going to be like the album comes out and then, hey, all of a sudden, like there's a movie, what? Kind of that deal. But because of what happened, they had already recorded Medicine at Midnight, and we had not been able to finish the movie because of COVID.
Right.
That's what it was. And like, honestly, like you said, like the one location, I learned how hard it is to do a movie in one location and keep it interesting.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
I would imagine that presents its own limitations and setbacks, or
Yeah.
where you
It's
have to really
constant.
be creative to not have everything look like it's the same damn thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, when you have the one location shoot, and that goes with any like one location movie. It's just like to keep things interesting and keep it going and keep it flowing. And it's hard to keep that momentum going with these movies, especially when you have a cast of you know 6 guys in a band,
Yeah.
and then you have more of a cast, and everybody's got to have their parts and everybody's got to do their thing. It's definitely one of those things that it's hard to keep visually stunning, especially because like there's like a living room where they have all their equipment. It's like a 4-wall room basically, and it's like, how do you keep that interesting every time you keep going back in that room? It has its struggles when it comes to keeping that the one location thing interesting. But I think we took every inch of that property and used it properly as much as we possibly could. We just tried
Yeah.
to take everything so you could keep it going.
Yeah. Now, so the basic, in case people don't know, the basic plot is the Foo Fighters are looking to do their 10th album in the film. They're looking to do their 10th album, and they really need some sort of spark. And their manager, played by Jeff Garland, suggests this house, where at the beginning of the film they show something terrible that happened in the house,
Yes.
decades before. And basically they soon come, well, I don't know how soon some of them come to find, but it's a number of them come to find how effed up the actual house is in
Yeah.
weird ways. It starts out rather horrifying, yet comparatively benignly, with the roadie's death in
Oh
the
yeah.
beginning of the film. But then, when I say benignly, when you see it, it's not so benign, but comparatively, it's less than what some people end
Yeah.
up getting.
Okay.
So basically, the idea is that they're trying to make this album, and just things get weirder and weirder as time goes on, and there's a lot of there's a term from the 80s, or I used to listen to this radio station, and they had this show called Drive-In Reviews. A friend of mine, this artist, Tony Fitzpatrick, and this guy, Buzz Kilman, and they would call them quality kills.
Yes.
And
Fun kills.
yeah, there's plenty of quality kills that are somehow also fun too.
Yeah.
How important was that vibe to that throwback vibe to the films kind of probably guys like us in the band grew up on, where everything wasn't just a mile a minute,
Yeah.
Just blood everywhere every 2 seconds
Yeah.
kind of thing. What was the pacing? You've got also a nice cameo in there by John Carpenter, who
Yeah, we do.
the theme song.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a throwback to the John Carpenter days too, in a way. How important was that kind of vibe to get?
I mean, that was what we strived to do. That was exactly what we were doing. You talk about the throwbacks. I put in so many Easter eggs in this movie that were like for certain true horror fans that would actually see that stuff, that would go, oh, that's a shot for, oh, that's an homage to this or that. Even down to the shadow people in the movie, it's an homage to the fog. That's, and Carpenter for me was a huge influence of my horror, growing up. He was like one of my main like influences. I loved everything when I was a kid, seeing all his stuff he would do. And that was like a big, huge bucket list, like amazing thing to have him do the song, the theme song, as well as come and do a cameo in the film, which was great. Yeah. It's like, how do you direct John Carpenter? It's like, it's so weird to do that. So that was a huge, like amazing moment for me. I mean, it is exactly the vibe that we were trying to go for, the people that are my age, and the people that grew up on the 80s horror films that were in like the fun kills. I think the people that are trying to go to see this movie and think they're going in to see something like majorly scary movie, maybe they might be a little disappointed, because it's supposed to be more of a fun film. And have more that, like the Jason Voorhees things, where it's like, when he comes up, something ridiculous is about to happen. Like the kill is going to be so ridiculous, but you kind of are waiting for that. That's what we wanted to do. We wanted to make sure that was the vibe that we were kind of, trying to hold. And it was very important to me. And the practical effects were very important to me, you know, like to try to keep them as practical as possible. I do mix a little CG with some of these things. But not all of them, you know, but some things like I'm not a hater. Like some people are like, oh, it's got to be practical, you know, or you know, CGI. I don't mind a little mix of CGI and things as long as it doesn't take away too much from like what you're trying.
No, but a lot of it was you could tell was practical, which was cool because I think I don't think everything needs to be CGI. I don't think everything needs to be practical either. I just think that it's nice to not have everything be the same.
100%, you know, and I didn't want to go like, because you watch horror films now and then things, you know, everybody's going for the scare vibe. Great, go for that. You know, I wanted to have fun with this and Dave wanted to have fun with this. We wanted to have a good time with this. And we wanted to bring back that old like 80s vibe, you know, we grew up on. And it was more about fun and laughing than it was about being scared and freaking out. You know what I mean? Right. But I do feel like we had a nice vibe and a good tone of like when it got dark, it would get dark. Like when it gets dark, it kind of gets dark at times. But then we also kind of mix it in with the comedy and let the guys play that out. So I thought we did a good job with what we were trying to set out to do.
Yeah. Well, one thing, and I don't know if this was intentional or not, but the thing I started thinking about, especially when Pat and Nate were skulking about, I thought there was a real Scooby-Doo vibe going on at some point. And I was like, boy, that's fucking cool.
And that's exactly it. We were calling it Scooby-Foo.
Scooby-Foo.
So, I mean, and that is like very intentional. It is that, you know, it's like people might, you know, if someone thinks that it's going to offend me by saying that's very Scooby-Doo-ish, you know, not you, but I mean, like if someone thinks that is like a thing that's like, oh, that's, you know, like, you know, it's Scooby-Doo. Thank you for that, because that is what we wanted to do. We wanted to make a very Scooby-Doo kind of vibe, fun movie with mixing different tones, and I think that it worked.
Yeah, it was like Scooby-Doo meets the Monkees.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Except and then meets John Carpenter somehow.
Yeah.
But you know, it was just a lot of fun. I mean, I think the way, you know, everybody's perception of Dave generally is that, I mean, there's hardly anybody that says anything bad about Dave. So
how can you say something bad about Dave? That's my whole thing. You can't. The guy's awesome.
Yeah. But it's funny that he's, I mean, not a huge spoiler. The trailers kind of give away that something happens to him, and he gets a little dickish, to say the least. But the band was great when it's like, you could tell that even like the way the band was juxtaposed with him, it's like it was like a spoof on the fact that these guys obviously get along. I mean, this is a bit of family, and it keeps picking up more people as time goes on.
Yeah.
And people stay. I mean, Pat left, came back. You know, it's like obviously there's a reason, you know.
Yeah.
But for the fact that all of them seem to be really irritated with Dave, even in the beginning of the movie, is kind of hilarious. But I got to tell you that the real surprise for me was Rami.
He's awesome, right?
Totally steals the movie. From being just, I don't know much about Rami. I know his credits, but as far as like ever hearing him talk, I never heard him talk before. So that's cool. And I don't know how much close it is to his real persona, because I actually met Taylor a long time ago for an interview, and Taylor is Taylor.
Taylor's
pretty much the same guy, but Rami, he has this whole new age Southern California hippie thing going on, and those damn bikini briefs he wears in the movie are just disturbing.
Oh, it's so gnarly. Yeah, we went for the gold on that one. There's a lot of close camera angles. I feel sorry for the camera operators that were having to shoot that. The script is written basically for each individual character of who they are, of like in real life of who they really are, and so what you see is what you get. I mean, it really is them. Like when you the film, because it is written. Because they're not playing characters, they're playing themselves, you know. Right. And that was the whole thing. I believe that when Jeff and Rebecca, or the writers, were writing it, you know, they got kind of intel on like how they were, each individual member. You know, I think they went to the house, like also when we were doing pre-pro and just kind of watching when they were still doing Medicine at Midnight to kind of see their demeanors and things like that. And so they wrote that into the script to play into what we wanted to get, because now it's not, you know, so many people see Dave Grohl. In this movie, you get to see everybody else. And I think that's neat, you know, for a lot of people that like want to get to feel like they know the band a little bit more. Maybe this brings a little more closeness on who they really are, you know, and hopefully we don't have anyone hate somebody after they see it. But I think they're all charming in their ways, you know, and they're all great guys.
Yeah, if anybody comes on bad, it ends up being Dave, because he plays. He gets inhabited by a spirit. But you know, I also thought it was funny, and I don't know how. See, I don't want to get. No, never mind. I was gonna give a spoiler, and I don't want to get into the spoiler because I just don't want to. Even though it's coming out after it's released, you know, I still don't want anybody
to not watch your show.
Yeah, well, I don't want anybody to be ruined by the movie.
Right.
Thank you. The movie's fun. But so I'll skip that one. How the house was where they filmed or they recorded the album?
It's exactly where they recorded. So basically, right when they got done recording their album, they pulled all their recording gear out, and then we brought in all the props. So it was like, seriously, like they all their stuff went, and all our stuff came in like probably a week later.
So how did the house get chosen for the album or the movie, or just finding something that fits for both?
Dave had stayed there before, like years ago, I think, when he was remodeling his house. And so he, you know, and he liked the actual way it sounded in there. And so he's like, this place has great acoustics. So I mean, it really was chosen for that, I believe, because he already knew about where that house was, because he had already rented it while they were doing his main house. And then that was basically like somebody came up and said, hey, you guys should make a horror film. And he thought it was a stupid idea. Then he goes, you know what? It's not a stupid idea. Let's do this. And because the house is a very strange house, it just set the tone and set a great place to shoot this movie. So yeah, he already knew about this place way ahead of time. The house is gone now, by the way.
Really? Razed?
Like completely torn down.
Oh, that's kind of a bummer.
It's a bummer, right? Like I was with Dave like a couple of weeks ago, and we were, you know, listening to some music he was doing over his place, and they go, check out this video, and it's just construction. There was like one wall of the house still there. It's like,
so some rich dude came in and said, I like the land. I just want to redo everything.
He just wanted the land. Yeah. And the house was, you know, they were just like, it's gone. So yeah, unfortunately the house is gone.
No, that sucks. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Like, didn't they raise, like, you know, there's a couple other places like that would be, you know, like I think about them raising the Sharon Tate house in the 90s when they basically kicked Trent and everybody out of there so they could bulldoze the damn thing. They had to kick everybody out, like they were literally leaving on the day.
I know, right?
Laying waste to the damn house.
Yeah, no, I know, it's crazy. We'll go with the lore that the house was so haunted that they had to tear it down. That's a good idea, actually. Yeah, they had to tear the house down.
It's a real story. It's a documentary,
and yeah, it had to go. So maybe the book is still on the ground somewhere, and hopefully no one finds it.
Yeah. So what? This is your first feature, correct? As a director?
No, I directed Hatchet 3 a couple years back.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, and then I did
horror, yeah. You do have a horror background.
I have a big horror background because I'm also a camera operator, and I've done a lot of horror films.
I saw your camera operator, like a lot of your credits for your camera work, and you've done Marvel movies, and you've done stuff like The Conjuring, and you know, all sort. I mean, you worked on the Top Gun sequel. I saw too, that is still waiting to come out.
Yeah, it's gonna be rad.
Yeah. That's got to be pretty cool. But you know what? How is the progression from being a camera operator to going and directing, and where do you see yourself, heading now? Do you still see yourself being a camera operator that tries to get a project going, or do you want to try to focus on directing?
So the progression of it was basically, I moved to Los Angeles to direct. My grandfather was an old actor, so when I was a kid, he was a big influence on me. And me and my buddies used to make like these stupid action movies with like VHS cameras running around, like just blowing up like Aquanet hair can sprays and shit, like like just doing stupid stuff when you're kids and making movies. I ended up joining a punk band. I kind of like lost my like whole like movie vibe for a while because I wanted to do the rock and roll thing. When that kind of quit, I just go, you know what? I'm going to move to LA and I'm going to go, try to follow my dreams of directing. I started working on sets. I got really interested in being a camera operator because I watched what they did. I loved the fact that they like what they shot was what you would see on the film. They'd be and as a camera operator, you're very involved with the director and the director of photography and the actors, and you really get to learn. It's the best film school on the planet is being right there on the set with everybody because you are in the mix and you are directly involved with it. And I think that made me a better director because I'm not afraid to speak with actors. I know like what the tone is. I know what camera moves go with each emotional scene. So like what it takes to make, to translate from the camera also to what is going on emotionally in the scene. I've learned all that through this. I've learned a lot from great directors. I've learned a lot from not great directors. I've learned a lot of how things work on set, what works, what doesn't work, what gear works for a certain thing, what gear doesn't work for a certain thing. So that's where I think that has transitioned me into my directing into a better way because it's not so much like, look, I know what it takes to talk to the actors and get the emotions out and the dialogue and what we want to talk about character wise, but I also know what it's going to take behind the scenes and how long things are going to take to get there, including like makeup effects. Some guys that just graduate from like a film school and they're like, I'm making a movie. They have no idea how long it takes for the makeup people to actually be able to put like a prosthetic on someone's face. And they start freaking out going, where's my guy? It's like, well, they had a 4-hour makeup. I know that. So then you have to pre-plan ahead to shoot something while he's in makeup. By the time you're done shooting this one scene, you're going to get your guy in and it's all about time.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. Where I'm going, look, I still love camera operating. I'm not saying like I'm out of, I dig it. I think it's a great job. It's one of the best jobs you can do in Hollywood because you're right there in the mix. And so, yeah, I mean, it's great. But directing, yeah, of course, I want to do some more projects, and I'm working on some stuff, and I'm looking for the next project, and like just want to make sure I get the next project's the right one. I want to do that. So yeah, I've been reading a bunch of scripts and working with my agent and manager to try to like get the next thing going that's going to be proper for this next step. So look, I'm all for both. Like I'm not saying I'm quitting either. It's to me, it's all about fun, and I just like being on sets.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have to imagine too. Based on your credits, you have a pretty, solid work history. I mean, you seem to work regularly, and that's kind of, and nowadays especially, you got to make money. I mean,
of course,
can't be unemployed for too long.
No. Well, yeah, and that's a big factor. It's like a lot of people don't realize that. It's like once you get into the unions, like I'm in the Directors Guild. I'm in Local 600 for cinematography. I'm also in SAG as an actor. But I don't act. I just have the card. I did one line in this movie Pop Star. But it's like,
I just saw that recently. What did you play?
I'm Snoop Dogg's cameraman.
Oh, right. It's hilarious.
At the very end of the movie, and you see me.
Yeah.
And I had one line where Chris Red's like thinks that I'm his cameraman, and then I'm like,
there's the confusion of the two competing films.
Yeah, and then you hear me say, "Nah, man, I'm with Snoop," and I whip pan over to
Snoop. Yeah.
That's my claim to fame as an actor.
That's great.
But
that's great.
Going back to what you said, and it's funny because I never talk about this in things, so it's funny you bring this up. But like, I've been 2 decades as a camera operator, and that shows me I'm like freaking Gandalf right now, camera operating. But you have to get your retirement hours, you have to get your health benefits and your insurance. It all kind of like, it's not a thing that just stops. Like you kind of have to keep doing it. Same thing with the Directors Guild. You get a job, you get your health insurance, you get retirement stuff. So for me, if I can play both games, look, if the directing thing takes off full time, great, that's fine, but I'm not bummed out if I go do a camera job because I actually really enjoy it. And plus, hey, if I can get 2 of my union retirement hours, let's rock and roll.
Right. Well, we'll talk a little bit about, being a camera operator. You've worked on, like I said, you've worked on a couple of Marvel projects. What is that like? I mean, just the bigness of it, the huge scope that some of those, once you've worked on it, it's got to be mind blowing to some degree. I mean, it's how does it feel to be on a set like that, working a film that you know is going to be huge no matter what?
Well, there's a lot of people behind those movies, and there's a lot of already preset things of what you're going to do. You know what I mean? Like, so a lot of those things have like total previs of like the action sequences. So you know exactly what you're about to film. So you watch it, like, it's basically like you watch a certain like little previs thing, like an animatic of what this thing is, and you know what you're going to shoot. So you set up the cameras and you kind of just emulate that. Whereas other things, you're just making it up or you're trying to figure it out as you go. Like the smaller project, like Studio 666, I had storyboards. I didn't have an animatic, so I would have to come up with things and do it on the day. It's just it's a different beast when it comes down to having more money with movies, and like there's a lot more people behind it, and there's a lot more people that have their hands in the cookie jar with like what you're going to do, and what, the freedom of a director. Sometimes, you have to always comply with what everybody else wants studio wise. It's not a bad thing. But it's just like, you're kind of more locked into what you're going to shoot, because they are like a freaking machine, when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
So it's a little more, it's more controlled in that way, doing those kind of movies. But in the end, they're awesome films. I think they're rad. I like more of the smaller, like for me, generally, like the 10 to $20 million movies that, you do those. It seems like there's just enough of like the creativity to get things going, and everybody's like more like having fun and like trying to figure it out. Whereas these bigger movies, it's usually already kind of pre-planned and preset of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So they're different beasts, and they're great. Working on big things is awesome. Working on small things is awesome, and middle things, it's all fun because it's all creative no matter what you're doing.
Oh, I get that.
Yeah.
With regards to Studio 666, you said you did storyboards. Do you do those yourself, or how does that work? I don't know, how much some people do them themselves, but
the Slayer videos I did, I do my own storyboards because I never had a budget really to do to hire somebody. The good thing about, Studio 666 is like, I wanted to storyboard certain sequences to make sure that we, like, the crew, it's really important for me to let the crew know visually what I'm thinking. So we would we'd bring a storyboard artist in, and I'd walk them through the set and through that scene. And we'd kind of like, I'd take pictures for them, or where I'd show them like certain angles and say, I want to do this, 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 and this. He'll take the script, and then he'll write down like the ideas I had, and then he'll totally plot that out. For me, it's great. It's a great roadmap for me, but it's also more for like being able to show the crew like what we're going to do. Cause I think it's important for the crew to also be like on the same page, or like visually it's easier to show what we're doing. Cause you can just say, here's what so-and-so says, and this is what happens. And everybody's going to have their own view in their head of how that's going to play out. You know what I mean? But if you actually make storyboards and you make a big board and people can walk up and go, and they can see exactly kind of where we're going and what it's going to do, it just makes things a lot faster. It's more of a planned out situation, and it just helps everybody move along, especially if you have a short filming schedule. If you don't have a long shoot schedule, that's very helpful, because people don't realize also that don't work in this business that time is the scariest thing on a set. Watching that clock and knowing how much stuff you have to get done in one day is very gnarly, and you have to really plan accordingly to make sure you make your days, or you won't in your movie. And that's
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I want to ask one thing. You mentioned the Easter eggs for horror, horror films you love. And I noticed one, and I'm not going to say it here because I want people to find it on their own too, but there's an OG Foo Fighters artifact that shows up in the basement. I think people will get a kick out of. But were there other Foo Fighters artifacts that like were interspersed, or was there only that one that I'm thinking of?
That one is the main one.
Okay.
There were more in that basement that we had peppered in there. It just didn't. Some of those things didn't make the cut, but I wanted to make sure that ray gun made it.
Okay, yeah.
I can say it. It's fine. It's in the trailer. You can.
Oh, okay.
It's actually in the.
I
trailer.
didn't notice it. Yeah.
It's in the trailer, and if it's not, well, I just gave it away.
Well.
Sorry, but
it's not really a big spoiler, but it's a fun thing to see.
Yeah, if anyone notices it.
Was that it? Like, what the hell's that doing down there?
It is the one. Yeah, we had that. There were a couple of other things that we peppered in there, but that was the one that made the cut. But like, with the horror stuff, there's a lot of visuals in there that are like throwbacks to the,
Oh yeah.
like for the true horror fans that like really like know certain like iconic shots in certain horror films, they'll recognize it, or they'll realize like kind of what we were going for,
Yeah.
in some of those sequences.
I got you. Yeah, I wanted to see if maybe I missed some, but it's good that I at least caught the one. But
Yeah.
But with regards to the band, all those guys, I mean, they're used to videos. We know that. They're performers, but they're not known to be actors. Dave has done some acting.
Mhm.
Dave has done a lot of stuff on camera where he's, with his documentaries where he's he's narrating or talking or interviewing and things like that. But the rest of the band weren't really known to be as out there with performing.
Right.
Who do you feel was the most surprisingly adept or gifted out of the rest of the guys?
It's hard to say. I'm gonna go honestly with Rami.
Yeah.
Because I thought that he just kind of went for it in his own way. I thought that he was full on, like, when he came on, there was like a really certain charm that he brought to the scenes that was really funny. And even like, I mean, look, they all have their own like awesome way of doing things. And look, again, when it comes to acting, we're not trying to win Academy Awards here. We knew what we were doing, and that's another thing when I say old school band movie, because it just kind of says, hey, look, this is, it is a band and they're acting, and it's going to be ridiculous. And like, it's funny because you hear people say like, oh, the acting could have been better. It's like, why? Like, like, what did that ruin it for you? Did you really go in thinking that we were going to freaking do like some Academy Award winning like movie, blah, blah, blah? No, we were here to have fun and make an old school band movie. And like that's, and it is what we set out to do. And I believe.
No, I don't think anybody in any way. I think everybody was great in their own way. I just keep going back to Rami because number one, I didn't know about him and not that much about him. And number two, he just had a blast. And I got to ask, is his chest hair like that normally, or did you guys manscape him in some way?
We manscaped his chest hair into a giant heart.
Yeah.
We shaved his chest hair, and I
think because that is very immaculately done.
I mean, you would have to really go out of your way to be like that. Like that's like, and that would be the ultimate choice, right? I'm not a very unhairy guy. I could do that. And I would have to go way out of my way to make that actually look like that. So no. We did that to Rami.
I like when he got the bedroom scene, the second bedroom scene, like I finally like looked at him like, what the hell is going on? That looks very manicured.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, we went for that one. I mean, that's awesome. We wanted to go ridiculous, It is funny when you see that, because it's just like, oh my God. I mean, down to even like his undergarments. We wanted to totally just go from like, all right, Rami, this is what you are. That we're going this far.
Was it a tiger head or a lion head on the wall?
I think it was like a leopard head or something on there.
A leopard.
Like
It was like it was just right there. It's like there's no way to not take your eyes off the.
Yeah, that was funny. Like trying to just get that camera angle, being like, all right, look, guys, put the camera right here, get close.
Yeah, get in real close. Well, I gotta say, he might get some fans just based on the adornments, that the special snugness that he got out of that bikini brief.
Those little suckers look pretty snug.
Yeah, everything looks like it's working well.
It's in there.
Yeah, it's
right in there.
Very, very tight, secure package.
Yeah, this is the one job I'm glad I wasn't the camera operator on. I didn't have to get all in there.
All right. Well, let's see here. Like, I'm thinking. So, have you done anything else with the band? I mean, besides you did the thing you mentioned a while back, but have you done any other work with them, or are they looking to do anything else with you as far as videos or anything?
I don't know. I mean, like I did the Run video. We did this movie. Dave does a lot of his own directing when it comes to the videos. So like, and that's rad. I think it's awesome because he's done some really great ones. And I mean, who knows? I don't know. Look, when you've been doing this for so long, it's like you never know where you're going to go, and you never go, oh, they're going to hire me again, or I'm going to be back with these guys
But
again.
you're pretty tight with them at this point. That's
Oh
kind
yeah,
of cool.
yeah, they're rad. I mean, we're all friends, And
Yeah.
look, I would love to do another thing with them, but at the same time, I know how this world goes, and I know how it
Oh
works,
yeah.
and I know how things work, and it's just like I never ever go, I work with this person, I'm going to do it all the time with these people.
Right. No, and
there's like,
you don't necessarily want to just work with one person either. I mean, you
no.
want to have like this. People want to have different flares. I get it. I honestly was surprised Dave didn't direct this himself when I saw that somebody that you had directed. I was like, oh well, it's kind of interesting. I expected if they're like the first food feature film would be a different thing, but that's kind of cool that he said maybe I'm not necessarily the one. And plus, they were making the album too, so they probably needed somebody else to kind of take the reins a bit.
I think that was a lot of it. I think that I think Dave just knew like it was kind of a bigger beast than like a music video would be.
Yeah.
It's also wrangling and making sure like there's certain emotional things that are going on in there. Not to say you can't do that, but I think that at the point he just wanted to basically focus on being Dave Grohl in the movie as an actor and not try to do the acting with also trying to direct the film, with also trying to cut the film. I mean, I can see where that would be a big thing. And, luckily he trusted me to do that.
That's great. That's really great.
Yeah. It was really, really a lot of fun to like, to really have them go, do this. So
yeah,
I was lucky.
What other video you mentioned Slayer? What other music videos have you worked on that people might know?
I did a whole Slayer trilogy video. I did a video it's their last album because they're not around. They're not together anymore.
Right.
The last bit. So I wrote and directed this Repentless video. It's like this jail video that's really brutal. It was only supposed to be a one-off video. They loved it so much and it got such good reception that I had to write a prequel and a sequel. Gerard over at Nuclear Blast, the record label, was like, hey, we should make a storyline out of this. I was like, yeah, that's a cool idea. So I had to take that one video, which would be the middle story. I had to write a prequel and then make the sequel. And so it turned out to be kind of like a bit of a political video in a way. And I wanted to basically make it very gory and very violent because when I think of Slayer stuff, I think of rock and roll and the graphics and the way it looks. I wanted to see a Slayer video because I didn't think they ever really had a proper video. Of videos in the past, not offending anyone that made their videos.
No, but you're saying something that really lived up to the name.
Right. I wanted to make something that, for me, that felt like a Slayer video. And so that's kind of where I took that. I did another music video for Exodus with Gary Holt. I did a video with them called The Beatings Will Continue. I wrote and directed that one. I just did a video for Steve Vai. That's awesome. Nice. Yeah. And it's so funny because it's like, it's totally not what I would do because I'm so like, well, not I wouldn't do, but it's like not in my, it's kind of out of my element because usually the things I do have like a storyline to them that are very graphic and crazy. And this one is just a straight like performance cool video with just him showing off his talents. And, I didn't want to like ruin anything with like any kind of scripted stuff. I wanted to really show what he's doing because really what it comes down to is Steve playing his guitar and how awesome it really is.
Oh, yeah.
And I've done some pitch things that really like, those never go anywhere. No one ever sees them because we're trying to get the movies made. It's just that kind of stuff. Mostly those are the videos I've really done.
That's cool. I mean, I don't know. That's awesome. What do you have on the horizon in terms of what you've worked on, like even as a camera operator? I know Top Gun is still up in the air when that's coming out, but have you shot anything else in the last year, or are you preparing to shoot something?
I did the remake of Salem's Lot just recently.
Okay, yeah, I heard about that.
And so that's the last feature that I operated on, which we wrapped up right before Thanksgiving. Okay. And so we did that. We were in Massachusetts shooting that movie. It's going to be awesome.
Who's directing that?
Gary Doberman, who did Annabelle 3, and he wrote the remakes of It and It 2.
Nice.
He's done a lot of the New Line movies, like The Nun and those films. He's done a bunch of really great, like he's written a lot of really great stuff, and he's just like a genuinely rad guy. So I'm excited for him to, to show the world what he did with Salem's Lot. It's pretty cool.
That's one that that's one of the, I haven't read too many Stephen King books, but that's one I read early on as a kid.
Yeah.
That's a I just remember it really mean, you know, that and oh, what's the one they remade it recently? The Stand.
Oh, The Stand, yeah.
You know, those two books really stood out for me the most out of all the Stephen King books I read. So I'm eager to see what this looks like, because the TV movie or whatever they did years ago just doesn't really cut it, you know.
Yeah, it's funny though, but I remember loving that TV movie back in the day. Like, but then I tried to rewatch it again. I was like, you know, like I mean, they're dated. Back when
right. Well, you also, you know, you see things with younger eyes. Not necessarily everything holds up.
Not everything holds up. You know, it's like, you know, I loved Cujo when that came out. You know, that movie, and I remember reading that book when I was a kid, and like it scared the hell out of me. But yeah, I think that Gary's version of Salem's Lot is going to be really great, and it's visually just stunning with what we did. Like with Michael Burgess, who shot the movie, did a killer job. And he's been doing a lot of stuff with the New Line guys. I work a lot with him, and it's really exciting. And I couldn't say enough good things about that whole crew. They're like that whole crew of people are great. The Atomic Monster people, the New Line people, Gary, James Wan, all of them. They're just like the best.
Yeah, yeah. And are you going to be working on anything soon? You got something signed up for, or are you waiting to hear?
I'm just kind of I'm doing basically just reading a lot of scripts, trying to see what the next move is. Probably going to go do some camera operating stuff a little bit, but just like nothing crazy.
But you don't have anything booked?
No, not really. No. Yeah, I'm just kind of like holding off and seeing like what's going on to see where I go from there, and just kind of, you know, I'm just kind of taking it slow right now and just really focusing on Studio 666.
Well, that's cool that you're able to take a little break without too much of a worry. That's cool.
Oh yeah, I'm enjoying it. I've been playing video games with my wife in between time of playing or doing press and like doing all the Studio 666 stuff. So it's been a really great, like, kind of like just stop for a little while.
Yeah. So I'm not going to take up too much more of your time, but I just wanted to see, you guys are doing some sort of in-person event, right?
Yeah, tomorrow night we're gonna show up and introduce the film to the audience over in Sherman Oaks and Woodland Hills.
Okay, so then when people are watching this,
it'll be after. Yeah.
Are you planning on doing any other events like that, or is that the main one?
Right now, this is the only one. Just depends on, like, you know, if they decide they want to do another one or wherever. I'll just go wherever they want to do it. They just let me know. I just go, all right, I'll be there.
It's got to be pretty cool to be able to see the film with an audience too.
Yeah, it's a better experience, in my opinion, to see it with an audience. So, you know, obviously, if you're comfortable to go see it in the theater, great. If not, wait for it to come to VOD or whatever, you know, it will at some point. But, you know, theater experience is always better, regardless what movie you're seeing, in my opinion.
I think so. I agree.
Yeah.
Well, you know, BG, I really appreciate you taking the time today. It was great talking to you about the film.
Yeah, thank you.
I thought it was a load of fun. I got to see it. I just watched it last night, in fact.
Awesome.
I wanted to be fresh, and it's a lot of fun. If you're a Foo Fighters fan, if you're a fan of horror, you know, a fan of music, all that stuff, it's just a fun movie.
Yeah, I'm hoping it becomes a cult classic. That's what I want.
Yeah, it's in theaters. By now, when you see this, it'll be in theaters. So
yeah,
go check it out. Again, thank you for taking the time, and I wish you all the best luck, man.
Thank you very much. It was awesome talking to you.
Talking to you. All right, you have a good one.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.